Hi friends, welcome back. Welcome to video number 14. For those of you who've started to watch this video, I urge you, if you haven't watched video 11, 12, and 13, I hope that you do. Because we've been following a sort of a systematic approach going through a certain topic, and I think you'll get a lot out of this video if you watch the others. You don't have to go all the way to number 1 video, but at least go to number 11 video. The concept that we're talking about is using mindfulness every day. And we're using the work of Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn and his stress reaction, stress response diagram. I've been outlining the different steps of this diagram, and today we're actually going to look at the other side of the diagram. We've been talking about the stress reaction, the fight-flight, that's automatic, and we're going into the stress response because we want to see, how does mindfulness help? Well, when we bring moment-to-moment awareness of our day-to-day lives and emotions, how our body feels, being the observer of all our thoughts, if a stressful event happens, which is bound to, we have that little split second that we can actually choose, bring just a tiny little pause to see, are we going to go fight, flight? Or are we going to choose to respond to this stress rather than react to it? Mindfulness is teaching that muscle. It's building that into our neural network. So we're talking about rewiring our brain with neuroplasticity. So I'd like to bring in the concept that mindfulness practiced over time brings in day-to-day awareness, moment-to-moment awareness of our internal state, so that when something stressful happens, we don't automatically go into a state that we don't want to be, making decisions that maybe we didn't want to make, saying things that we didn't want to say. So the amygdala, which is that fight-flight center that we spoke about many videos ago, that turns on when we're in a reactive phase. But when we're responding to stress, it doesn't turn on. And if it does, it turns on to a much, much, much lesser degree. We're going to go back to our diagram, and I'm going to put up my little guy with one big leg. And I mentioned to you this diagram. And so the other side of it is that we still get a stress, but we can actually go into a stress response. Do you see how this is different than the stress reaction? It's on the other side. What the big arrow here is, you guessed it, mindfulness, moment-to-moment awareness of our internal state. So when we bring in a tiny pause, a tiny stop to whatever just happened, a terrible conversation, someone cut us off, a fight with a child, a spouse, a coworker, we have a moment of awareness, a moment of what's happening in our internal state. That brings us into stress response. And what happens when we respond to stress? Our amygdala is not firing as much. We've taken a breath, maybe using hand meditation or a bit of a grounding practice, even if it's a few seconds. A moment of awareness will change whether you go down a stress reaction or a stress response. So in that moment, if you go down this way, you'll have a completely different reaction than if you go down this way. You're bound not to internalize a lot. Maybe you internalize a little bit of the stress, but definitely not a lot because you've become aware. The moment of awareness allowed everything to calm down, bring in the big picture, bring in the whole brain, not just the voice that's in fear and anxiety. And in that moment, a bit of a wise self can come on board and say, let's put this one in perspective. Let me take a moment before I respond. And here we have emotion-focused strategies, and we have problem-focused strategies. We've got a lot of different things that come on board here to help us strategize to see, what are we going to do to this? How am I going to handle this one? And by being in a more calm state, much better options come on board for how you're going to deal with the stress that you were just under. So my hope is that if we start to build the muscle to go down this way with that moment-to-moment awareness of our internal states, we're able to decrease the damage that happens when we go down this way. You remember we spoke about lots of internalization, maladaptive coping such as overworking, worry, self-destructive behaviors, alcohol and drug abuse. Well, we can go down this way. We're still going to get stressed, but it's not going to be as bad as when we were on this side of things. So mindfulness, at the crux of it, is teaching us day to day how to be able to respond to stress and not react to stress. So the teaching here is to start to build the muscle of this. This is not automatic. This is. And I urge sort of all of us to work together to notice how many times when a stress comes, we automatically want to react, and how can we start to respond. Doing the work of sitting, grounding, body scan, guided meditation, all of that is helping to strengthen our mindfulness, the awareness of the mind and body. And that, with no other work except building this muscle, you will automatically be able to have that moment and that pause to go into a stress response. So I hope that you see how mindfulness can actually help day to day. And in the next video, we're going to do a quick summary of all of that with a small guided meditation. I'll see you tomorrow.